Hi, welcome back to God Family Politics, where I get to talk about my favorite three things. First, the Lord, two, family, and three, politics. And so today I have Brian Searcy with me, and he wrote the book Prepare for the Real World. The world is not a safe place. I got to tell you, Brian. I did a home visit for a student this week, and when I approached the home, I hadn't been to this particular area um, of the school district, but his home had been sprayed with bullets, and
Wow.
so. And the way it was sprayed, it was definitely with intent to harm. And so you're going through this. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We do know that you're a retired United States Air Force colonel and founder of CEO of the Paratus Group.
Correct. Yep.
So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing. You served our country. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, the Paratus is Latin for prepare. So everything we do at the Paratus Group is focused on what we call left of bang, which is to prevent bad things from happening. Whether it's active shooter or the myriad of threats that we face today, we believe at the Paratus Group that we fail people by trying to tell them what to do to respond because we don't know if they have the skill or capability to actually do what we're telling them, number one. But number two, what we really need to be doing if we want to solve these problems is figure out how we prevent them from happening. So at the Paratus Group, we have programs that are designed to educate schools, businesses, churches, and families, parents specifically, on how you learn situation awareness to empower you with the necessary habits and behaviors and a mindset, again, to prevent these bad things from happening. And like I said, it's not just active shooter, it's human trafficking, it's suicide, it's bullying, it's sextortation, all these threats that are out there that are really not just facing us adults, but they're facing our kids today.
Each one of those that you stated is what our children are facing right now in many areas, not just Texas, close to the border, but everywhere. And so how do you go about helping parents prevent situational things? Can they be prevented?
Yeah, so unfortunately today, and this is not something that I came up, this is from the Harvard Business Review, less than 1 in 7 adults today actually practices situational awareness. And if you don't practice and understand what situational awareness is, it's almost impossible to be able to be an effective parent. Because without situational awareness, you can't pick up on those clues that something has changed in your kid's life, that they're unhappy or that things that are going on. Most parents that I talk to whose kids have been human trafficked or maybe attempted suicide, they all have anger, regret, guilt, because when they would go back and see most of the time, their kid's behavior changed, but they didn't pick up on it. Or if they did see it, they succumb to normalcy bias, or they just, yeah, my kid would never do anything like that.
Right.
Hope is a strategy. Where what we need to do is learn and develop the situational awareness habits and behaviors that allow us to actually then take action when we see something. And the traditional training that's been going on in all of these areas for over 30 years obviously isn't working because these threats are getting worse and worse and worse. So we have to go about how we change educating and empowering parents to make a difference. And so with our program, it's not a 1 hour lecture where we try to, educate somebody. We have a program that empowers the development of the habits and the behaviors so you can actually practice situational awareness to prevent things from happening.
So do you go into schools? Do you go to communities? What do you do?
Yeah, so we'll go into businesses, into schools, and provide our programs to the teachers, provide our programs to the students. We go into churches, and we speak to community groups across the United States, trying to get directly into parents, because we believe the way we truly solve this problem is for parents to learn this skill, and then they teach their kids and empower their kids with this skill. See, where we are today, it has taken 30, 40 years to get here. We had a generation of young people that grew up to be parents that never learned this God-given, how to use this God-given skill of situational awareness. And if you don't know something, it's actually, you'd agree with me, it's impossible to teach somebody something if you don't know it yourself.
You don't know what you don't know.
So what we need to do is empower people to learn this so that then they can teach their kids. And then when their kids become parents, they know this skill and they can teach it to their kids. And it is not one of those skills that you sit down and you lecture your kids. Your kids learn this skill by you practicing the process that we teach and by you using contagious behavior. All of my kids have situational awareness, and they learned it because we would go out to a restaurant and I would see a learning opportunity to educate them on how to practice their situational awareness. And there were never, I never had to worry about finding those learning opportunities when they were young. And when I truly learned that that worked, that contagious behavior worked, was when my oldest, who's now 30 years old, when she was 14, we walked into a restaurant with family friends, and she knew what seat I needed to sit in because I can't sit with my back to the door and I've got to see the exits. And her friend was going to sit in that seat. And my daughter said to her friend, "I'm sorry, you can't sit there. My dad has to sit here." And her friend said, "Why does your dad have to sit here?" And my daughter rambled off. "Well, my dad can't sit with his back to the door. He's got to be able to see the exits, and he'll have a plan and he'll tell us what to do in case anything happens." So she already was aware of that. And then she obviously practices it on a regular basis herself.
So what I've learned is that people don't just come up with these things that they do. What happened to make you aware that this was something needed?
Well, I got involved with active shooter about 3.5 years ago. And most of the people that I would talk to, their whole thing was about how to tell people to respond. And because of my 37 years of leadership and training, I realized what we're doing is setting people up for failure. Because if I told you what to do and it's something that I would do and you don't have the skill to do it, I just set you up for failure.
Wow.
Right. So I decided that we needed to put together a program to prevent active shooter from an active shooting event from happening. And then when you prepare yourself to prevent it from happening, you automatically figure out what you would do if it actually happens. And then in 2019, I realized that this didn't just apply to active shooter. It applied, like I said, to all the threats that we face out there. I started doing research on situation awareness and how many people have it. That's where I learned those statistics and realized that, excuse me, this is my mission.
Of course.
Excuse me. Sorry about that.
It's all right. And so I'm looking and I see that that some of the things that you do, you're actually using a decades of proven leadership in this training that you're doing. So it's not just something you've come up with. You've actually are using strategies that you work. Are these strategies that you found in working in the military?
Yes. So that's why I said 37 years now of leadership, of training experience, of helping young men and women grow in the Air Force. That's what I use to have used to build this program. All of that background and experience. I have spoken many, many times on leadership. And one of the key things that I talk about as a leader is that you don't tell somebody what to do. You have to empower them to figure out how they can be a good leader. And that's the same philosophy that we use when we talk about situational awareness. Like I mentioned, this is a God-given gift that we all have, but we have to figure out what we're capable of doing when we practice that situational awareness to set ourselves up for success.
Okay, great. So tell me some of the other things, your book, Prepare for Real World. Tell us a little bit about that. What is one of your favorite chapters in the book?
Yeah, that's a tough one because the book is designed as a working journal to give people the foundation about how you go about practicing situational awareness. So in the book, We talk about what is situational awareness, that God-given gift that we all have, the hair on the back of the neck or that gut feeling. We talk about the 10 critical personal skills that you have to be able to practice situational awareness and, oh, by the way, be successful in life. And then in the book, we talk about how you have to go about practicing your situational awareness process that we teach. And that's how you develop the habits and behaviors. And that's actually been one of the challenges at the Paratus group, is because people like simple. They like to get things done. They don't like a program that goes on for 90 days where for 2 or 3 or 4 minutes a day, you're being re-engaged and reinforced on how you practice your process, because it takes 21 days to establish a new habit and 90 days to establish new behavior. So that's why our program is 90 days long. The initial part is 90 days long. So you actually establish those habits and those behaviors, because then that's how you learn to be able to see things that are out there. But even more importantly, because of the process that we practice, you figure out how to act on it. And that's where most people fail.
So when you've used this in some of the schools, tell me about some of the outcomes.
Yeah, so schools become a lot more safe just when the teachers and the staff and the kids learn situational awareness. If you go back to one of the recent shootings, there was questions about whether a door was propped open, which gave access to the shooter to actually get into the building. I can't tell you how many assessments that I've done of schools, and because the teachers don't have good situational awareness, they leave doors open, unlocked. The high school kids come in and out and leave doors open, or let people in, or allow hitchhiking to happen. People walk around the building without badges, without being vetted, because they didn't come in through the front door, and nobody does anything about it. I can't tell you how many times I've walked down a school hallway and a teacher has looked at me and sees that I don't have a badge, but then they just go on doing what their normal business is instead of then acting on it. And so just by learning and developing situational awareness, you dramatically improve the overall safety. But here's the other thing: the great training that goes on how to respond to an active shooter. When you have situational awareness and you think about it every single day or every time you walk into your classroom, now you're truly empowered to know what to do in a situation. Because what in especially the active shooter, if a company comes in, if I were to go in and do an hour's worth of different scenarios of what an active shooter event might look like, the chances that I get the actual scenario 100% correct is zero.
Wow. Mm.
Because we have no idea what that active shooter situation is going to be. So that's why it takes people to think through numerous times different scenarios when they find themselves in different situations about what would I do, because then what they're doing is they're putting information into their library. So if they're under stress and they have to respond to something because they couldn't prevent it, now they've already thought about the different scenarios that they might do.
So where is your organization located?
So we're here in the Paratus group is here in North Texas, but we do work all over the United States.
Oh, awesome. And so I noticed that you were featured on Newsmax. How was that?
That was fun. That was fun. And I'm looking forward to doing more of those things as well. But I love being on your show as well. So
I'm very new to your organization, and what you're doing is definitely needed. You told us about what you could do in schools in Texas. Now that's needed because we've had 2 shootings here, really not that far apart from each other. But what can you do in the communities?
yeah, so that's where we're going in and we're talking to parents and grandparents
Okay.
and to high school students. Because what we truly believe is that when you learn situational awareness and you learn how to practice it, and then you also learn the 10 critical skills, one of which is empathy. So now you're prepared, you've got situational awareness, you can potentially see something happening, and you're then empowered with that empathy to do something about it. So it's not just preparing yourself to be able to deal with something, but one of the key things I talk about, when I'm walking through a parking lot at the grocery store, or walking into church or whatever, I'm not on my phone. I'm paying attention to what's going on, and I'm looking to make sure that the people that are around me are not being approached by somebody that wants to do harm. So when we all do that, and when we all act with great situation awareness and we act like we're prepared, we are much less likely to be victims. And it makes it very, very difficult for the predators because they can't find those easy victims. And they know that we all want to help what's going on. I saw a video this morning and I was pleased to see this because you don't see this very often. A state trooper had stopped somebody on the side of the road, and this person attacked the state trooper, and a number of drivers that were passing by actually stopped to help the state trooper.
Wow. Wow.
That is how we make a difference. You come on an accident, you stop and ask, "Are you okay? Has 911 been called?" Instead of just driving by. But it takes situational awareness, it takes empathy, and the ability to think through what and how I can help in different situations.
With everything that's been going on, I'm not, naive to, intruders getting onto campus that aren't supposed to be there. Somebody coming in to sell drugs or somebody coming in to get another student. Do you feel like there's going to be a rise in this type of behavior in our nation?
Well, if we could educate our kids with the 10 critical personal skills and empower them with situation awareness at the Paratus group, we feel that that will go a long way to solve problems. A lot of the things that are going on in our communities, whether it's our kids on kids or adults or whatever, and the reason why we're seeing such a rise in anger and violence is because when you don't have good personal skills, when you're not perceptive, when you can't communicate, when you don't understand perspective, when you don't have empathy and humility, you are much more likely to deal with a situation with violence and anger than you are with a conversation. And because people don't have these skills today, that's what we're seeing. So the way that we have to solve that problem and empower people not to deal with situations with anger and violence is to give them the skills so that they can do that. 92% of kids coming out of school today do not have well-developed personal skills. And that is why we're seeing them respond to situations with anger and violence. And so to turn that on its head, we have to empower them with those skills. Instead of complaining about it, let's actually do something about it.
Right, right, right. Mr. Searcy, if somebody wants to get in touch with your organization, schools in Texas, churches, maybe, what do they need to do?
They can go to our website. It's www.paratus, that's Paratus.group. And they can, couple ways then to reach out. There's a contact us page on there, but there's also an opportunity to download the 10 critical personal skills. We have a document that talks about those 10 critical personal skills, and their information will then come to us and we can reach out to them. And I'm also open. Anybody can just send me an email directly at Brian, Brian, at Paratus.group.
Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. And also, I'll make sure that there's information in the links that are on social media. Unfortunately, I can't do that for you guys that are watching on TV or watching on the cable channel, but we'll make sure that there's links to Colonel Searcy's organization and numbers and everything else about what you're going to do. Because I can see this being needed in Texas as well as other states. Mr. Searcy, thank you so much for spending time with us. I wish many blessings for your organization, and I hope to be talking to you soon. Oh, and where can they get your book?
It's in Barnes and Noble. You can get it at Amazon. So absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. You as well. Merry Christmas.